Thank you for sharing that. I think it's interesting because from an outsider's perspective, even in my much younger days, you kind of perceive these special operators to effectively be like crazed cowboys. But the more you meet these kinds of people, the more my perception changes that they are all um, gentlemen warriors, right? They're just good, down to earth humans with legitimate moral compass who just have a job to do, and they're capable of flipping a switch and doing the job. Um, and I think that comes through in your writing really well. And so, if any of those first responders, whether it's military or law enforcement, are listening, I think that I think you honor them well in what they do.
Thank you.
Let's transition a little bit and talk about morality. You create opportunities in the narrative of your stories to discuss the morality of what your protagonist is doing. Jonathan Grave, as we mentioned, in fact, when you and I spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, the word you used, and I'll never forget, is you said, he's a murderer. The guy's a murderer. And in every legal sense, it's true. The man is a murderer. Like he definitely just, he's not getting warrants. He's not always, worried about what the courts are going to say and whether or not he checked the boxes of self-defense. He's more in the realm of like, I'm just on the side of the angels. I perceive and I believe I'm following a moral compass. And so it is what it is kind of thing. I just do what needs to be done. But in the story, there's moments where you have characters who question his decisions or have a slightly different moral compass. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Like you dedicate some pages to the discussion. So it's not an ancillary, like the way I perceive it is not, well, the author here feels like he has to address this. And so he addressed it. Now we're moving on. I feel like the author is trying to make a point here. Like he's trying to communicate some important thing he wants readers to understand. Like what's the foundation of what you're trying to communicate when you have those conversations?
The justice prevails. That's in Jonathan Graves' world, and in this what world that I have created in which he lives. People who oppress others. Now I'm sounding like Stalin. People who oppress others, who they're just the bullies. They kidnap. They do whatever bad things they do. They're bringing pain to people who haven't earned it. And you use the phrase, Jonathan considered himself to be on the side of the angels. So when you hire him, or hire is probably not always the right word, he's going to bring justice to the bad guys, and he's going to reunite the good guys with their families. And he believes, and I may or may not agree with this, the justice moves very slowly. In fact, I was kind of surprised. One of my friends with the FBI HRT referred to hostage taking as a homicide in slow motion. And in discussing this further, obviously they are committed to saving the hostage. But there's kind of a quiet anticipation that might not happen. The disaster for a law enforcement agency, and when there's a hostage taking, is if the bad guy gets away, especially if the bad guy isn't convicted on some kind of a technicality. The warrant wasn't dated properly. They didn't get a warrant at all, or they should, those kinds of things. I mean, we have a constitution, and I agree that we all need to be protected by that. But that slows things down sometimes. Even the command and control stuff, we're waiting for permission to move ahead. Uvalde, Texas, the ultimate horrible extension of that. It slows things down, and the people who pay the price are the victims. In Jonathan's world, to hell with all that. There's the good guy, there's the bad guy. Let's get the good guy and not worry about the rest of the stuff. Now there's stuff in his background. It's kind of complicated, but he's Jonathan, it would be like his fingerprints are not on record for various reasons and all that. So he's hard to catch in what he does, but everything he does is extra legal. And frankly, everything he touches, he ruins a lot of evidence. When people couldn't possibly use the stuff that he has collected while pursuing the bad guys because it's all tainted. None of it would be admissible in court. So he's almost, while he's bringing justice to the bad guys, he's also really frustrating law enforcement agencies who are now feel sort of hamstrung. So that's kind of his world. But Jonathan is first and foremost about justice, and that's what weighs on him the most. Is that, you know, I've made a commitment. I want to honor the commitment, and those hostages or whoever the good guys are deserve better.
Yeah. Man, the first response, like when you first started to answer the question, you said the thing that I found most valuable, which is this. I think the underpinning belief is this feeling of, like, even though this is a fictional story, and you know, there may not be some ultra wealthy vigilante former Delta dude coming for you. Justice does ultimately get served. Like it is real and it is coming. And the good guys are going to win. The bad guys are going to fail. And I think that's important.
And the work, I think one of the most challenging parts and frankly exciting parts of stories like this is the person who's, and this is whether it's in real life or in fiction, the person who is 30 seconds away from being rescued has no idea that this is not his status in life for the next 20 years, right? They don't know what is coming for them, the good news that is coming for them. And, you know, just think about it, I kind of got a chill thinking that. Think of the drama and the privilege of being one of those rescuers. With Kurt Muse, then they broke into his cell and spoiler, he got out. The first thing they said was, they called him Moose because he's a big guy. Said, "Moose, you're going home." And in talking to Kurt, you know, has a hard time getting through that phrase, "You're going home," because he thought he was going to spend the rest of his life in this skanky jail in Panama.